Tony Willis, I'm the Clinical Director for Diabetes for North West London. Just going to share with you the new diabetes benchmarking dashboards that are on Whole Systems Integrated Care. So if you've not visited the Integrated Care website before, you'll find it via the Healthier North West London collaboration of CCG's website, and under there, under the menu, you'll see News and Resources. Click on that and then go down to see the link to the Whole Systems Integrated Care dashboards, and then follow the sign-in link about halfway down the page. So that will take you to this website, nww.analytics.southlondoncsu.nhs.uk. You may already have this as a shortcut on your system if you're used to using the dashboards before. I'm going to put in my username and password. If you haven't got one of these, you should contact the IT support team who'll provide one for you. So it'll just take a few moments to log into the website. And you probably won't see this UAT WSI link because that's user acceptance testing for sort of beta testers. So you want to click on this WSI and it will take you to the homepage of Whole Systems Integrated Care, where you can access all kinds of different dashboards for long-term condition management, for an overview of maybe of your frail population, and various other things. So we're clicking on population health, and we will be looking for the diabetes benchmarking dashboard. Note there's also another diabetes dashboard which provides patient level information and various other metrics. There's a really useful tool on there about finding patients who are at high risk of developing diabetes, a way to get your non-diabetic hypoglycemia register up. So anyway, let's go into the diabetes benchmarking dashboards, and you'll see that there's a choice that comes up of key care processes, more measures including achievement of treatment targets, a CCG view which basically shows achievement against the metrics for each practice, and then there's a network level view which shows the achievement of networks against key benchmarks. So let's look at the network view to begin with. This takes a little while to load because it's loading data from across the whole of North West London, and while we're doing that I'll just explain a little bit of background on this. So this basically started off as a benchmarking dashboard across the old Chewy CCGs and has now been extended. So this data comes from primary care systems. It's extracted once a week on average, and note that there are a number of practices, I think there are about 5 practices who are still opted out of the system, and there are also some patients that are opted out at the moment. So this isn't the complete data set, but it does contain probably 95% of all patients on there with diabetes. So here we are, we've got a number of indicators. We've got the CCGs down the left hand side. Scroll down, you can see more of them, and then we've got the individual primary care networks, their diabetes register, so the population of people with diabetes. You can also see some interesting information about things like the average diabetes prevalence and also the GP network index of multiple deprivation. Looking at that, so for example, peer group 3 in Harrow has got an index of multiple deprivation of 12.6, whereas say the north of central London has got an index of 24.6. So here we are, across the top we've got a number of key metrics. We've got achievement of key care processes going down. So historically a number of things got taken out of QOF which are actually quite crucial for diabetes care. These include body mass index measurement and urine albumin creatinine ratio. These are important key parts of diabetes care. We've got achievement of nice treatment targets with a cholesterol of 4. We've got achievement of an HbA1c of 53 or less in patients who have been newly diagnosed within the last 24 months. HbA1c less than 58, HbA1c of 140, 80 or below, cholesterol of 4 or below, care planning, percentage that have had hypoglycemia monitoring who are on sulfonylureas and or insulin. Note that this doesn't bring in local codes from System 1, and we've used some of these historically within the Chewy diabetes contract, so hence why the data for some of the Chewy CCGs is quite low compared with what you might expect it to be. So we're going to change the diabetes template to support that. There's also the percentage of patients that have been referred into structured education. We've got the non-diabetic hypoglycemia register, the register of people at high risk of diabetes. We've got a percentage of the NDH to diabetes register ratio. So the idea is to maximize that ratio to identify people at high risk, to be able to offer them support and refer them into the National Diabetes Prevention Programme. And finally, we've got the percentage of patients that have had an annual review, including measures such as body mass index, cholesterol, blood pressure, HbA1c, smoking, and have also had a lifestyle referral, which includes the National Diabetes Prevention Programme. So that's really the overview of the network view, and you can see the average for Northwest London. At the moment we haven't got trend lines on here, but that's something that we're looking to introduce fairly shortly, so you'll be able to see your improvement. Note that the extraction is just about once a week, so it takes a little while for data to filter through if you're making clinical improvements in your practice. So on to the CCG view, which allows us to view individual practice achievements against some of the metrics, and the idea here is really that this is how we identify practices to target support to. So clinical leads, nurse consultants, the community diabetes team providing support into the practice to advise about things like recall systems, to do virtual clinics, to identify patients who could be whose care could be optimized, and to allow that quality improvement to happen over time. So first of all, to note on this practice level dashboard is that there is a filter at the top that allows you to filter by CCG. We're not going to do that at the moment. We're just going to look at this, and what it shows is that you've got the ranking of practices by achievement of treatment targets. So you can immediately go down to the ones near the bottom and say, okay, what can we do to support you as a team? Along the top there are a number of metrics: achievement of key care processes, then those processes broken down into HbA1c, blood pressure, cholesterol, body mass index, urine albumin creatinine ratio, EGFR, foot risk check, retinal screening, and smoking. So you can see what percentage of patients have had each of those metrics done within the last 15 months. We've got treatment target achievement, HbA1c of 53 or less in newly diagnosed patients, HbA1c of 58, blood pressure 140/80, cholesterol of 4, care planning, hypoglycemia monitoring in patients who are on high-risk medication, structured education, NDH to diabetes ratio, annual review of patients with NDH, and percentage that have been offered referral into the National Diabetes Prevention Programme. So this can be filtered by CCG. We'll just do that briefly for, say, Hounslow, to view that information. And that will just take a little while to do that because of the amount of data that's being filtered, but it's still probably quicker than being able to view this data directly within your GP system, and you get a more visual output from this. So that will just take a while. There's been one minor issue with blood pressure that happened in Brent and Harrow practices that is being resolved. It was due to partial loading of data in November and December. So that should be fixed fairly quickly in January 2019. So here we are looking at Hounslow CCG. You can see the list of practices, and you might say if you were looking to support practices, you might be looking to targets and the ones down at the bottom here, and ask what they would like in the way of support to improve their diabetes care for their patients. So that's the diabetes benchmarking view. We're going to look at the GP practice more measures, and so what we're looking at here is a kind of a different graph. We've looked at some RAG ratings previously with percentages of patients that are achieving each of the key metrics. What we're looking at here again is percentage of patients on a linear scale along here, but what we call a box plot or a scatter plot, and allows you to see the percentage of patients that have had 9 key care processes done. We're just going to quickly filter to Hammersmith and Fulham, which is my CCG, and the important thing to notice here is that we've suddenly got a triangle showing on here. This is my practice, Richford Gate. We're on the basis of some of this information, we're looking to do some changes to our diabetes clinics to improve our key measures and outcomes for patients. There's clear correlation between HbA1c, blood pressure and cholesterol, and key cardiovascular and other complications outcomes. So absolutely crucial that we help practices optimize these. So here we go, my practice here, kind of doing reasonably okay, but not right up at the top. So you might, if you're a practice, go and look at this practice up near the top, who are one of the outliers. Let's see who that is. This is Brook Green Medical Centre, so I might ask the clinical lead for diabetes there, what are you doing that's different from what we do? And they'll say, we've got a really organised recall system, we run diabetes clinics, we've got clinicians who are engaged and have done some additional training. So here we go, my practice here for key care processes, nice targets, HbA1c less than or equal to 53 in newly diagnosed patients, HbA1c less than 58 in the last 15 months, blood pressure 140/80, cholesterol 4, cholesterol 5, percentage of patients that are on the appropriate atorvastatin dosage, 20 milligrams or more, is the recommended NICE guideline. Care planning, hypoglycemia monitoring, structure education referral, and then we've got the NDH metrics, NDH prevalence, NDH to diabetes ratio, annual review, NDPP referral, and then we've got some national diabetes audit measurements. And then we'll go into the key care processes. We won't focus too much on these trend lines, we're looking to improve those in the coming months. So here we go, key care processes. This is basically really just the percentage of patients that have had each of the key care processes done in the last 15 months. So 9 key care processes, then individually HbA1c, blood pressure, cholesterol, body mass index, urine ACR, EGFR, foot check, retinal screening and smoking. We're going to be shortening these titles so that they're a lot clearer for you, so there'll be much less wordage on there. You can view how you compare with the CCG average and the North West London average. So there we go, that's a brief overview of the diabetes benchmarking dashboard, which should be helpful for both clinicians in practices, practice administrators, and also the diabetes support team in your CCG to support you if you need it. So the last thing that I'll show you on this dashboard is how to download data. We're just going to click on this button here and then download, and what we'll select is crosstab. So crosstab basically allows us to view a whole list of the data with the headers in place, and you can see for that table that you've got the individual networks, you've got, and then achievement against each of the key processes for that. Okay.